Imagine being in California and finding out that your insurance no longer wants to insure you. That's something that is going to be coming down the road, and we're going to explain that a little bit further into this video. The main piece and the main reason you may have clicked on this is the fact that State Farm has officially canceled all new business for homeowners insurance in California, as well as they also aren't allowing new business home policies to be active as well. So if you're looking to rent out a home or purchase a home in California, State Farm is out of the question. Now, the piece that you don't see in the news is it's not just State Farm. State Farm is just the one everybody loves to talk about. The top 10 companies in the state of California, the majority of them have stopped writing home insurance policies altogether. So I've got a lot of notes here. I've got probably 30 tabs open. Let's dive in and I'll explain why this is happening. It's not just wildfires like a lot of people are saying. There's a few pieces that we need to unpack and explain what those are and then what steps you can take to prevent this. So the companies that we have, we've got State Farm, Allstate, AIG, Farmers, Berkshire Hathaway, and then a little bit of an asterisk. We've got Chubb. We'll explain the Chubb. It's not exactly in the same bucket. This is a major problem because this accounts for 15 to 20% of all of the home insurance in California. If you have 10 people, 2 of them don't have insurance going forward. Now, keep in mind, yes, they have a policy currently with State Farm or Farmers or these guys that we're talking about. They're not non-renewing people. Actually, if you go back to 2018, the governor implemented a law that you can't non-renew them. If the governor claims a state of emergency, you cannot be dropped from your home insurance for 12 months. You've got a year from the time that has happened. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't drop you coming up new if there isn't a state of emergency. This is why a lot of this is happening. Yes, the main piece is wildfires. The prediction of the wildfires going into 2023 and 2024 and beyond is a lot more. It's actually gone up over 15% since 2022. And so we're seeing a huge increase in wildfires, but also the cost of building a house is 20% or more to do that in California. A lot of you like to know the percentages, and I'm kind of a little bit of a geek about that, so I'll kind of use my cheat sheet. I looked up some of these companies, and I was like, okay, well, how big of an impact is just State Farm or Farmers or whatever the case is? And according to the articles I found, $7 billion is with State Farm. They're just massive. Even though they're not even the best insurance company in the state of California, they are one of the largest in general, so they just hold a lot of insurers. They're 8.3%. They are the largest impact in California. So 8.3% is all State Farm, and we're going to see those policies start to dwindle because odds are, the truth be told, you're probably going to see rate increases. That's the next step. They want to pause the business they have. If there are bigger, larger wildfires, then they're going to increase the rates on the current business they have to kind of squeak that out of the book. They kind of get rid of what they call the bad business. It means they can't make profit on it. Allstate's actually a smaller guy because they're just not as competitive in the state, but if you're with Allstate, as we all know, they're no longer offering new policies. AIG, American Insurance Group, they're part of, I think they're part of that Farmers or that Zurich model, which they're all in-house into one. So they kind of follow on the Farmers brand. The Farmers brand is actually the second largest, and they have 7.9% of the insureds in California for homes. Berkshire Hathaway is the next up, 6.3%, and they're one of the larger ones. So between those three, we've already got 15%. That's just happening today. That means that some of these companies that see these with these larger companies, they start the trend. When State Farm and Farmers and Berkshire leave certain states or stop certain business, that opens the eyes to a lot of other insurance companies to say, maybe we should look a little bit further. They're doing this for a reason. Do we want to capitalize and get the business, or do we want to do the restrictions as well because they see something we don't? And then, yes, we'll get to Chubb here in just a moment because that is fairly important if you have Chubb insurance as well. Now, this information is coming from the Department of California Insurance, and one of the things that they showed was the wildfire risk or the rates. And the numbers that they're showing on here, they're stating that there was over 7,000 wildfires in the past 5 years. That's over 2 million acres of property that was affected by some sort of wildfire. So yes, that is a major piece of why a lot of these companies are saying, no thanks, we don't want to be in California right now. We're going to pause our company and just see what happens in the next coming months. The drought or the dry up in California starts in March and then just continues to get worse and worse over the summer. According to one article, the average cost of home insurance is about $1,300 per year. Now, I believe that was about a year ago, so that information, you're probably looking closer to $1,800 per year. Yes, that's a massive jump. But what we've seen is the average in the US has gone from about $1,250 to over $1,550 right now. If that's the case, and California was already at that amount, they're between that $1,500 to $1,800 per year for home insurance, which is a little bit odd because now that we're seeing that amount, we're seeing the cost of material, the cost of the buildings. I've got several videos that go over that part, but what we're looking at more in depth is the fact that the cost of materials has increased the homeowner insurance. That brought up the question, well, what is the average claim for a homeowner's insurance company in California? The average before the increase was about $13,804 per home. That's almost $5,000 more than the average home claim across the US. So that brought up the question, what are the other pieces that is causing these insurance companies to say, we don't want to do homes in California? I dove in and started asking some questions and looking up some answers as far as what is the average claim, not just the average cost. If we look back at some of the data, if we compare probably the biggest controversy, which is Florida versus California, Florida actually had about $4 billion less in claims than California did. For some reason, the wildfires and the claims that they're having have outweighed the hurricane and the problems that Florida is having. Actually, in 2022, they had over $16 billion worth of wildfire claims in California. The next up was $1.5 billion, so not even close to a tenth of what the cost was wind and hail. Water damage was worth about $1 billion worth of their claims, and standard theft was about $500 million worth of the claims in California. So yes, this is the main reason. You see how large of an impact the wildfires versus the wind and hail versus the theft and all the typical claims you would expect. That's one of the largest things that you're going to find out. So what is the next step? What can you do to prevent this? I personally am actually starting to work with some agents and look for some people in California that you can connect with. I'll put a link in the description below if you guys are looking or need to shop around for different auto or different home insurance. If your rates have climbed up or if the company you're with is just stopping the business in your state, I'll make sure that we try to connect you with as many people as I can find to get you guys reinsured correctly. If you're watching a news article, they're going to explain all of the dangers and the scary things, but I like to dive a little bit deeper. And one of the other pieces that a lot of us don't realize is reinsurance is a major factor. If you don't know what that is, it's usually not seen on a consumer level. But if you figure all of these major companies, the State Farms of the world and the Farmers and all of these companies have what's called reinsurance. So if they have a cap, they're not on the hook for all of the premium. If it goes above what they're insured for, then another company will kick in and pay that bill. That's part of the reason we're seeing a heavy stop or pause is because there's 3 major reinsurance companies that have essentially left California. And same reasons that we mentioned before is higher premiums, different claims, more wildfires happening, and also the cost of lumber and all that stuff to rebuild the home. So from 2020 to 2022, we've seen 3 of the major companies. I'll try to read them. It's Swiss Re, Munich Re, and XL Catlin. Those are the 3 of the major companies that have stepped out of the state. That also puts a weight heavier on the insurance company to where they can't logistically have more policies be processed to where they can properly protect themselves. On top of that, there actually was a law implemented back in October of 2022. I think it took effect January of 2023 to where there are some discounts that you can actually get on your policy. So that also lowered the premium regardless of what impact that had if you added a sprinkler system, if you added a home hardening kit, or lastly, if you got an inspection, a professional inspection for wildfires in your home or around your area, that you did that every year. So your home policy, you can actually get discounts for these situations. Keep in mind, that's also a small piece of why these insurance companies, they have to give these discounts because they were written into the rules and the regulations that they had to follow. I hope this was helpful. There was a ton of information. Feel free to watch it back and share with anyone that needs it. Follow for more. I will follow up on some of these California rules, guidelines, and laws that are happening right now. Like I said, if you're looking for a good company, I'm trying to find some for you. I'll put the link in the description below where you can fill out a quote, and hopefully we can connect you with the right person. I'm Mark with Think Insurance. I'll see you in the next one.